The plasma restraints hummed against Zara Keth's violet-skinned wrists as she sat in the detention cell of the merchant vessel Starhawk. Her emerald eyes burned with defiance as she glared at the human who had captured her after 3 months of hunting across the Outer Rim territories. Captain Marcus Webb leaned against the cell's energy barrier, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 42, he had seen enough of the galaxy's ugliness to remain unmoved by most things. But something about this particular prisoner nagged at him in ways he couldn't quite understand. "The famous Zara Keth," Marcus said, his voice carrying the slight accent of the Martian colonies, leader of the Catherian resistance, terrorists responsible for 17 attacks on human settlements. Zara threw back her head and laughed, the sound like silver bells mixed with winter wind. Her long, midnight blue hair cascaded over her shoulders, and the bioluminescent patterns along her neck pulsed with amusement. "Terrorist? Is that what your propaganda calls those who defend their homes from invaders?" Marcus's jaw tightened. He'd heard this rhetoric before from captured rebels, but none had delivered it with such elegant conviction. "Your people attacked civilian transports. Families were killed. After your military destroyed our sacred groves on Kepler 44b," Zara replied, rising to her full height of nearly 6 feet. Even in chains, she moved with predatory grace. "Tell me, human, do you know what those groves meant to my people? Were our ancestral burial grounds grown over millennia." The bounty hunter shifted uncomfortably. His briefing had mentioned military action on Kepler 44b, but nothing about burial sites. "That's not my concern. I'm here to collect the bounty on your head and deliver you to Admiral Blake at Titan Station." Zara's expression changed, amusement replaced by something darker. "Yes, I know him well. He's the one who gave the order to burn our sacred places. Tell me, does he still wake up screaming from the nightmares I planted in his mind during our last encounter?" Marcus frowned. The official reports claimed Zara Keth possessed no psychic abilities, but her words carried an unsettling certainty. "You're lying, am I?" Zara approached the barrier until she was only inches away from Marcus. Her proximity sent an unexpected jolt through him. "Your precious admiral has been taking neural stimulants for the past 6 months. The medical records would confirm it, if you bothered to look." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain, Webb to the bridge. Priority message from Titan Station." Marcus hesitated, studying Zara's face for any sign of deception. Her exotic features remained serene, but he caught something else in her eyes, a flicker of genuine sadness that she quickly masked. "Don't go anywhere," he said, immediately regretting the poor attempt at humor. Zara's laugh followed him down the corridor. "Oh, human, if only you knew what you've gotten yourself into." On the bridge, Marcus accepted the encrypted transmission. From Admiral Blake. The man's pale face appeared on the main screen. His eyes slightly dilated exactly as Zara had described. "Webb. Excellent work capturing the terrorist. Long until arrival. 18 hours at current speed, sir." Blake's smile seemed forced. "Perfect. I have special plans for our Catherian friend. Make sure she arrives, ... intact. Her interrogation will be quite thorough." Something in the Admiral's tone made Marcus's stomach turn. "Sir, the bounty contract specifies live capture. It doesn't mention interrogation methods. It's above your clearance level, Captain. Just deliver the package." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with his doubts. He'd been hunting bounties for 8 years since leaving military service, but this felt different. Something about Zara Keth's words had planted seeds of uncertainty in his mind. Returning to the detention level, found Zara sitting in meditation. Pose, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing in slow, hypnotic rhythms. She opened her eyes as he approached. "Let me guess," she said softly. "Admiral Blake seemed eager to see me again." Marcus said nothing, but his expression must have betrayed his thoughts. "You're beginning to doubt, aren't you?" Zara rose and moved closer to the barrier. "Good. That means you're not completely lost to their lies." "What lies?" Marcus asked despite himself. Zara's emerald eyes seemed to look right through him. "The lie that my people started this war. The lie that we're monsters who kill innocents for pleasure. The lie that humans came to our worlds as peaceful explorers instead of conquerors." Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the certainty that had driven him for years. Even if that were true, you still led attacks against civilian targets. To protect our children, Zara said, her voice breaking slightly. Your military was using civilian transports to smuggle weapons to illegal settlements on our worlds. We had to stop them. The passion in her voice, the pain in her eyes, it felt genuine in a way that made Marcus question everything he thought he knew about this war, as their eyes met through the energy barrier. Something electric passed between them. Marcus found himself noticing details he'd missed before, the elegant curve of her neck. The way her alien features created a beauty both exotic and familiar. The strength in her gaze that spoke of someone who had sacrificed everything for her. Beliefs? 18 hours, Marcus said quietly. 18 hours, Zara agreed, her expression softening. Long enough for truth to surface, if you have the courage to seek it. The Starhawk hummed through hyperspace toward Titan's station, but Marcus Webb found himself unable to concentrate on routine ship operations. Every few minutes, his thoughts drifted to the woman locked in his detention cell, and the doubts she'd planted in his mind. He'd spent the morning reviewing his files on the Catherian resistance, searching for inconsistencies. What he found disturbed him more than he cared to admit. Civilian casualty reports that didn't match attack patterns. Military responses that seemed disproportionate to the actual threats. Most troubling of all, gaps in the timeline that suggested entire incidents had been classified or scrubbed from public record. Ship's computer, Marcus called out. Display all available data on Operation Cleansing Fire, Kepler 44 to be. Access denied. Admiral Blake's authorization required. Marcus's blood ran cold. Why would routine military operations require such high-level clearance? He made his way back to the detention level, finding Zara exactly where he'd left her, sitting in peaceful meditation. You were right about Blake's medical records, he said without preamble. Zara opened her eyes, unsurprised. Of course I was. He's been having nightmares about burning Catherian children alive. Children? Marcus felt sick, the report said. Your settlements were military installations. Some were. But Kepler 44b was a civilian colony. Families, schools, hospitals. Zara's bioluminescent patterns dimmed with sorrow. Blake ordered the use of plasma fire on residential districts. 3,000 innocents died in a single day. Marcus sank into the chair across from her cell. Why should I believe you? You could be lying to manipulate me. Zara stood and approached the barrier, her movements fluid despite the restraints. Because Marcus Webb, yes, I know your name. You've seen enough death to recognize the truth when you hear it. Your service record shows you left the military after the Proxima massacre. You know what it looks like when good soldiers are. Ordered to do evil things. The mention of Proxima hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd never spoken of that day to anyone, yet somehow this alien woman knew his deepest shame. How do you know about your nightmares? The guilt that drove you to become a bounty hunter. Zara's voice was gentle now, almost intimate. My people have certain ... sensitivities. I can feel the pain you carry. Before Marcus could respond, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. Urgency lights bathed the corridor in pulsing red as the Starhawk dropped out of hyperspace with jarring suddenness. Multiple contacts on approach vector, the ship's AI announced pirate vessels. 3 light cruisers and a destroyer. Marcus was on his feet instantly, muscle memory from his military days taking over. Computer, raised shields, and charge weapons. Unable to comply. Weapon systems offline due to sabotage.
What?
Marcus ran for the bridge, then stopped. He couldn't leave Zara unguarded, not with pirates about to board his ship. But he couldn't fight effectively with her still restrained. Zara seemed to read his dilemma. Let me help you. You're my prisoner. And dead prisoners collect no bounties. She held up her shackled hands. Those pirates won't distinguish between captor and captive when they start shooting. The ship shuddered under weapons fire. Marcus made a decision that went against every instinct of self-preservation. He deactivated the cell's energy barrier and released Zara's restraints. Try to escape and I'll shoot you myself, he warned, drawing his sidearm. Zara rubbed her wrists where the plasma shackles had burned her skin. Where would I go? We're in deep space. They reached the bridge as the first pirate vessel began docking procedures. Through the viewports, Marcus could see armed figures preparing to breach his ship's hull. He activated the internal defense systems, but half the weapon turrets showed as offline. They knew exactly where to hit us, he muttered. This wasn't random. Zara moved to the tactical console with surprising familiarity. It wasn't, oh, those are Crimson Fleet markings. Blake hired them to make sure I never reached Titan Station alive. The reality of the situation hit Marcus like ice water. He wants you dead. Dead people can't reveal inconvenient truths. Zara's fingers danced over the controls, somehow accessing systems that should have been locked. But we can still fight them. How are Eucatherian neural interfaces? She explained, not looking up from her work. We're naturally compatible with most computer systems. I'm rerouting power from life. Support to the remaining weapons. The first wave of pirates breached the outer hull, their heavy footsteps echoing through the ship's corridors. Marcus grabbed a plasma rifle from the weapons locker and tossed another to Zara. Can you fight? In response, Zara checked the weapons, charged with practiced efficiency. I didn't become leader of the resistance by asking nicely. They moved through the ship together, covering each other with a coordination that shouldn't have been possible between enemies. Marcus found himself watching Zara's graceful movements, the way she seemed to anticipate his actions before he made them. When she glanced back at him, during a brief pause in the fighting, her emerald eyes held something that made his heart race. The battle for the Starhawk lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, 15 pirates lay dead throughout the ship's corridors. Marcus had taken a graze to his left arm, while Zara bore a deeper cut across her shoulder that turned her violet skin an even darker shade. In the aftermath, they sat together. In the ship's medical bay, as Marcus tended to Zara's wound, the proximity required for the treatment meant their faces were only inches apart. He found himself studying the intricate patterns of her bioluminescent markings, the way they seemed to respond to her emotional state. Why did Blake want you? Dead? Marcus asked softly, applying synthetic skin to her injury. Because I have recordings, Zara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Visual proof of what happened on Kepler 4-4-B? Audio recordings of his orders. Evidence that would end his career and expose the real reasons for this war. Marcus's hand stilled. What reasons? Zara looked up at him, and suddenly the space between them felt charged with electricity. Rare minerals. Catherian worlds sit on the richest deposits of quantum crystals in this sector. Your government needs them for faster-than-light communication, but they couldn't justify conquering peaceful worlds for resources. So they manufactured a war and made my people into monsters to give humanity something to fight against. Zara's hand touched his, sending warmth up his arm. But you're not like them, Marcus. I can sense it. Their eyes met and held. Marcus felt something fundamental shifting inside him, walls he'd built after Proxima beginning to crumble. This woman, this enemy, understood his pain in ways no human ever had. Zara, he said, then stopped, unsure what words could capture what he was feeling. She leaned closer, her alien beauty taking his breath away. I know. The Starhawk drifted in the debris field left by the pirate attack, its engines powered down while Marcus ran diagnostics on the damaged systems. 12 hours had passed since the battle, and the ship's recycled air carried the metallic scent of cooling weapons and spilled coolant. Marcus worked in companionable silence beside Zara, who had proven surprisingly adept at starship repair. Her Catherian neural interface allowed her to communicate directly with the ship's computer, identifying problems faster than his manual scans ever could. The hyperdrive motivator is cracked, Zara announced, pulling her hand away from a data. Port. We can make short jumps, but nothing longer than a few light years at a time. Marcus wiped grease from his hands, studying the elegant alien woman who had somehow become his partner rather than his prisoner. That puts Titan Station out of range. Is that disappointment I hear in your voice? Zara asked, a slight smile playing at her lips. The question forced Marcus to confront feelings he'd been avoiding since the battle. Somewhere between fighting for their lives and working together to repair his ship, Zara Keth had stopped being his captive and started being something else entirely. "I've been thinking about what you said," Marcus admitted. "About Blake. About the war. I accessed some classified files during the repairs." Zara set down her tools, giving him her full attention. "What did you find?" "Requisition orders for mining equipment shipped to Kepler 44-B. 3 days before your people were supposedly planning their first attack. Quantum crystal extraction gear." Marcus's voice was heavy with disgust. "They knew they were going to burn out your colony before they claimed you were a threat." The bioluminescent patterns along Zara's neck pulsed brighter, betraying her emotional response. "Now you understand why I laughed when you called me a terrorist. Your people came to my world with lies about peaceful exploration, then massacred civilians when we refused to abandon our ancestral homes." Marcus moved closer to her, close enough to see the pain in her emerald eyes. "Show me the recordings." Zara hesitated. "There. Even for someone who lived through it, I need to see." She nodded and touched a hidden panel on her jacket. A small holographic projector activated, filling the engineering bay with three-dimensional images that made Marcus's stomach clench with horror. The recording showed Kepler 44-B as it had been before the attack. A beautiful world of crystal, forests and floating gardens, populated by Catherians living in harmony with their environment. Then came the human ships, plasma bombs turning the crystalline trees to slag. Families fleeing in terror as their homes burned around them. But it was Admiral Blake's voice on the audio that sealed Marcus's transformation from bounty hunter to ally. "Acceptable casualties for strategic resource acquisition. Document all Catherian resistance as unprovoked attacks on human civilians. We need public support for full military colonization." The hologram flickered and died. Marcus stood in stunned silence, the weight of his complicity in this war crushing down on him. He'd spent 2 years hunting Catherian terrorists, never questioning the official narrative. "I'm sorry," he said, the words feeling inadequate. "I'm so damned sorry." Zara reached out and touched his face, her alien fingers surprisingly warm. Against his skin? "You didn't know. Most humans don't know. But I should have questioned it, should have investigated." Marcus covered her hand with his own. "How many of your people died because I believed their lies?" "Can't change the past," Zara said softly. "You can help me change the future." Their faces were only inches apart now, and Marcus found himself drowning in her emerald eyes. The attraction he'd felt from the moment he saw her had deepened into something far more profound. This woman had every reason to hate him, to see him as just another human oppressor, yet she looked at him with compassion and understanding. "What do you need me to do?" Marcus asked. "Help me get these recordings to the Galactic News Network. Once the truth is public, humanity will pressure your government to end this war. Blake will never let that happen. He'll hunt us across the galaxy." Zara's smile was fierce and beautiful. "Then we'd better make sure he doesn't catch us." Made his decision in that moment, abandoning 8 years of carefully maintained emotional distance. He pulled Zara into his arms and kissed her, pouring all his regret and newfound purpose into the contact between them. She responded with surprising passion, her alien anatomy compatible enough with his own to make the kiss electric, her bioluminescent markings flared bright as her emotional barriers crumbled. And Marcus felt as though he was touching starlight itself. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "This complicates things," Zara whispered. Everything was already complicated. Marcus traced one of the glowing patterns on her neck, marveling at how it pulsed under his touch. "But I'd rather face complications with you than certainties without." "You?" Zara's expression shifted to something Marcus couldn't quite read. "There's something else you need to know. About me, about my abilities, the neural interface thing. More than that." Zara took his hands in hers. "Catherians don't just interface with computers. We can create temporary neural connections with other sentient beings, share thoughts, memories, emotions directly." Marcus felt a chill of understanding. That's how you knew about Proxima. The moment you touched me to treat my wounds, I felt echoes of your experiences, your guilt, your pain, your fundamental decency buried under years of self-imposed exile. Zara's eyes searched his face. I didn't mean to invade your privacy. The connection forms automatically when we make physical contact with someone we care about. The revelation should have terrified him, but instead Marcus found it strangely liberating. For the first time in years, someone understood his deepest secrets and still looked at him without judgment. Can you do it now? Share something with me, Zara nodded, placing her palm against his forehead. Immediately, Marcus's mind filled with images and sensations that weren't his own. The crystalline beauty of Catherian cities. The harmony of a people who lived as one with their environment. The desperate love of a species fighting for survival. But strongest of all was Zara's growing feelings for him, admiration for his courage, appreciation for his willingness to change, and something deeper that took Marcus's breath away. When the connection faded, they stared at each other in wonder. Now you know, Zara said. What I feel for you is real. Marcus kissed her again, this time with the certainty that whatever dangers lay ahead, they would face them together. Then let's go save your people. The mining station on Series 7 hummed with activity as cargo haulers loaded quantum crystals stolen from Catherian worlds. Marcus watched the operation through enhanced binoculars from a ridge overlooking the facility. Zara pressed close beside him in the narrow observation blind they'd constructed. 37 guards? Marcus murmured. Heavy weapons emplacements at the main gate and landing platform. This isn't going to be easy. Zara's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. Over the past 6 days of traveling together, their partnership had evolved into something deeper and more intimate. The communication array is in the central building. If we can reach it, I can upload the recordings to every news network in human space simultaneously. And then Blake will know exactly where we are. He already knows. Zara pointed to 3 ships approaching the station from the south, Crimson Fleet escorts. Blake's trying to move the stolen crystals before the truth comes out. Marcus cursed. Under his breath, they'd tracked the mining operation to Series 7, hoping to find evidence of illegal resource extraction. But they'd walked into something much bigger. The station below represented the hub of Blake's entire operation, a processing facility for crystals. Strip mined from conquered Catherian worlds, we need backup, Marcus said. I sent a coded message to my people before we landed. Nick should be here within the hour with a strike team. Marcus turned to look at her. Nick's my second in command. Also my oldest friend. Zara's bioluminescent patterns dimmed slightly. She won't trust you at first. Most of my people have good reason to hate humans. Before Marcus could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. 3 guards were climbing the ridge toward their position, plasma rifles at the ready. Move, Marcus whispered, grabbing their gear. They slipped away from the observation blind just as the first guard reached it. But their retreat route led them directly toward the station's perimeter. With no other choice, Marcus activated his tactical cloak and pulled Zara close. The device's energy field barely large enough to cover them both, pressed against each other in the shimmering invisibility field. Marcus was acutely aware of every curve of Zara's body, every breath she took. The stress of their situation seemed to heighten the attraction between them, making his heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with danger. They made it through the outer perimeter and into the station's main complex, finding shelter in an abandoned storage building. The moment Marcus deactivated the cloak, Zara pulled him into a fierce kiss that spoke of desperation and need. If we don't survive this, she whispered against his lips, I want you to know that these days with you have been the happiest of my life. Marcus cupped her face in his hands, marveling at the way her alien features had become beautiful to him. We're going to survive, both of us. A soft chime from Zara's communicator interrupted them. She activated the device. A holographic figure appeared, another Catherian woman with silver-blue skin and tactical armor marked with resistance insignia. Nick, Zara said with obvious relief. Zara. The hologram's voice was cold as she noticed Marcus. I see you've brought a pet human. Marcus is working with us now. He's seen the truth about Blake's war. Nix's laugh was bitter. How convenient. A human develops a conscience just as our cause becomes desperate. Marcus stepped forward. I know I can't undo what my people have done, but I can help stop it from continuing, can you? Nix's image flickered as her ship's signal strengthened. We're 3 minutes out from the station. Blake's reinforcements just jumped in system a full battle group. This is about to become a war zone. The building shook as the first wave of orbital bombardment struck the mining station. Through the windows, Marcus could see Crimson Fleet, ships launching to intercept the approaching Catherian vessels. The communication array, Zara said urgently. We have to reach it before the station is destroyed. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting, dodging, panicked. Station personnel and automated defense systems. The central building housing the communication array was heavily guarded, but the battle raging overhead had drawn most of the defenders away. Marcus used his military training to clear a path. Through the remaining guards, while Zara worked her technological magic on the station's security systems. They fought as a perfect team, anticipating each other's moves with an intimacy, born of trust and shared purpose. The communication array was a massive structure occupying 3 floors of the central building. As Zara began the upload process, connecting her neural interface to the station's transmitters, Marcus stood guard at the door. Upload at 60%, Zara reported, her voice strained from the effort of processing so much data simultaneously. The building shuddered under a direct hit from the orbital battle. Through the array's windows, Marcus could see Catherian and human ships locked in deadly combat, the space between them lit by weapons fire and exploding holes. 80%. Marcus spotted movement in the corridor outside. Company coming. At least a dozen. I need 2 more minutes. The first wave of guards reached the communications chamber just as the upload hit 90%. Marcus held them off with precision fire from behind overturned furniture, but more kept coming. A plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, spinning him around. As he struggled to regain his footing, a massive figure in power armor entered the chamber. Admiral Blake himself, his face twisted with rage behind his combat helmet's visor. The infamous Zara Keth, Blake snarled, raising a heavy plasma cannon. You've caused me considerable trouble. Upload complete, Zara announced, disconnecting from the array. The truth is spreading across every news network in human space. Your war is over, Blake. My war will never be over. Blake's finger moved to the trigger. Dead martyrs are much easier to discredit than living witnesses. Gosh. Marcus threw himself between Blake and Zara, just as the Admiral fired. The plasma bolt meant for her struck him in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor. His last conscious thought before the darkness claimed him was the sound of Zara screaming his name. The medical bay of the Catherian vessel Starweaver hummed with healing energy as Zara knelt beside Marcus's unconscious form. 3 days had passed since Blake's attack on the mining station, and the human who had risked everything for her people still hovered between life and death. His neural patterns are stabilizing, announced the ship's medical officer. An elderly Catherian named Vex, whose bioluminescent markings had faded to pale blue with age. The plasma burns were severe, but your people's medical technology has remarkable compatibility with human physiology. Zara barely heard him. Her attention was focused entirely on Marcus's still form, one hand pressed against his forehead to maintain the neural connection that was keeping him anchored to consciousness. Through the link, she could feel his mind fighting its way back from the darkness that had claimed him. Zara. Nix entered the medical bay, her expression grim. We've received a transmission from Admiral Blake. He wants to meet. Let him rot in whatever hole he's crawled into, Zara replied without looking up from Marcus. He has the entire Third Fleet positioned around Earth, Nix continued. Civilian targets. He's threatening to bombard population centers unless you surrender yourself within 24 hours. Now Zara did look up, her emerald eyes blazing with fury. He would murder billions of his own people rather than face justice for his crimes. The man's insane. Our intelligence suggests he's been taking combat stimulants for months. The neurological damage is making him increasingly unstable. Nix moved to the medical scanner, displaying Marcus's vital signs. Your pet human is improving. He should be conscious within the hour. He's not my pet, Zara said quietly. He's my partner. My... mate. Nix's silver eyebrows rose in surprise. You've bonded with a human, Zara? The genetic incompatibility alone. Love doesn't recognize genetic barriers, Zara interrupted. Marcus saved my life. More than that, he saved my faith in the possibility that our two species could coexist peacefully. Before Nix could respond, Marcus stirred on the medical bed. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they found Zara's face. Did we... Did the upload work? He asked, his voice hoarse. The recordings are being broadcast on every major network in human space, Zara confirmed, relief flooding through their neural connection. Public opinion is turning against the war. Marcus tried to sit up and winced at the pain in his chest. Blake escaped during the battle, Nix said, but he's cornered. The Galactic Council has issued a warrant for his arrest, and your own. Government is calling for his removal from command. Then why do you look like someone died? Marcus asked, reading the expressions around him. Zara took his hand, dreading what she had to tell him. Blake has positioned his fleet around Earth. He's threatening civilian bombardment, unless I surrender myself to him. Marcus was fully alert now, struggling to sit up despite his injuries. Absolutely not. It's the only way to prevent. I said no. Marcus's grip on her hand tightened. There has to be another solution. What solution? Zara's voice broke with emotion. Let him murder innocent people to protect one life. I can't do that, Marcus. I won't. The argument was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Torres, Marcus's old military rival, who now commanded one of the few human ships fighting alongside the Catherian fleet. His weathered face was tight with concern. Sorry to interrupt, Torres said, but we've got developments. The human government just issued a statement condemning Blake's actions and ordering the Third Fleet to stand down. Will they obey? Nix asked. Torres shook his head. Blake's replaced most of the senior officers with his own loyalists. They're following his orders, not the government's. Marcus swung his legs over the side of the medical bed, ignoring the protests of both Zara and the medical officer. Then we end us ourselves. How? Zara demanded. He has 50 ships. We have 12. We don't need to defeat his entire fleet, Marcus said, his tactical mind working despite his physical condition. We just need to get to Blake himself. Cut off the head, and the body will surrender. His flagship is surrounded by escorts, Torres pointed out. It's suicide. Marcus looked at Zara, and she saw determination burning in his human eyes. Maybe. Not. You said Catherians can form neural connections with willing partners, right? What if we linked an entire strike team that way? Perfect coordination, shared reflexes, combined tactical awareness. The strain could kill you, Vex warned. Human neural systems aren't designed for that kind of connection. But it might work. Zara said slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. A small team could slip through Blake's defenses if they moved with perfect synchronization. Nick stepped forward. I volunteer for the strike team. As do I, Torres added. Blake's insanity ends today. Within 6 hours, they had assembled a team of volunteers, 4 Catherians and 3 humans, including Marcus, despite his injuries. Zara served as the neural hub, linking their minds together in a network that allowed them to function as a single coordinated organism. The sensation was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Through the connection, he could feel the thoughts and emotions of his teammates, their skills and knowledge flowing through him like a river of shared consciousness. Most overwhelming of all was his bond with Zara, strengthened by the neural link until their two minds seemed to merge into one. They approached Blake's flagship in a captured Crimson Fleet vessel, using the enemy ship's transponder codes to slip through the defensive perimeter. The neural link allowed them to move through the ship's corridors like a force of nature, each team member knowing exactly where the others were and what they planned to do. They found Blake on the command bridge, ranting at his officers about the need to cleanse the galaxy of alien contamination. The Admiral had clearly lost what remained of his sanity, his eyes wild with stimulant-induced paranoia. Stand down, Blake, Marcus called out as the strike team surrounded the bridge crew. Dover. Blake spun around, his hand moving to his sidearm. Marcus Webb. I should have killed you years ago after Proxima. You should have, Marcus agreed. But you didn't, and now you're going to answer for your crimes. My crimes? Blake laughed, the sound harsh and broken. My only crime was having the vision to see what humanity could become without alien interference. He raised his weapon toward Zara, but the neural link had already warned her of his intention. She moved at the same moment Marcus did, both of them acting with the perfect coordination of their shared consciousness. Blake's shot went wide. Marcus's did. The Admiral collapsed to the deck, his plasma pistol clattering away across the metal flooring. Around them, his officers were surrendering to the strike team, their loyalty to Blake evaporating with their commander's fall. This is Captain Torres to all Third Fleet vessels. Torres broadcast over the ship's communication system. Admiral Blake is dead. Lay down your arms and prepare to receive new orders from Earth Command.